going to start the filming of this that it'll be recorded for others to view after. So if you want everyone just turn off their cameras so that you're not in the recording, and we'll just get right into that. So let's just start off. So Natasha, can you hear me? Everything loud and clear?
Yes, I can. That's perfect.
Awesome, great. So we just want to thank you again for being here. I know everyone's super excited for this, and we're all just going to learn a lot. So we'll just get right into it then. So the first question that we have for you is, can you walk us through the application process at Lethbridge and tell us a little bit about the Calgary campus difference, if there are any?
Yeah, absolutely. So for our applications, we use Apply Alberta, which I don't know if you've worked with other Alberta post-secondaries or if you're familiar with the Apply Alberta platform, but essentially it just asks you to create what they call a digital ID. And through that, you're going to just input your personal information, things like that, and basically create an account. And they're going to input all of that information into our application portal. So it makes it nice and easy if you are looking to apply to multiple post-secondaries in Alberta, because then you're essentially just creating that account and it's going to allow that to be used at all of those different post-secondaries for that information. So you're not doing that same thing over and over. It's also really nice because they're going to pull all those things like your high school transcripts, all those things that you would maybe need to provide. They're going to do that for you on that back end. So it's pretty nice and seamless in that regard. Not too much on your end, just filling in all that personal information. And it can be found just right on our homepage, so our future student website. You can find it, access it there, and it's just going to be the Apply Now button, and it will redirect you right to the Apply Alberta website. Then in terms of our Calgary campus, so we do have, of course, our main campus in Lethbridge. Our Calgary campus is focused towards a little bit different market. So essentially it's for mature students or students that are working professionals. So people that are looking to study more in the evening and weekend, if they have a full kind of 9-to-5 type job. If they're looking to take courses outside of that, our Calgary campus is really optimal for that, because then they can kind of do both at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's like really great. Seems like a super easy process, which makes it definitely easier. So do you guys look for extracurriculars when students are applying, or is it all based off of like just your transcript?
Yeah, so it does depend on the program that students are applying into. We have competitive and non-competitive programs. So our admission requirements for each program is going to vary depending on what you're looking into. So for the most part, we are looking specifically at those high school admission requirements, just making sure that those are being met. But when it gets into our more competitive programs, that's when we kind of can start to look into things like extracurriculars, especially for things like graduate programs, if you're looking into a master's degree, things like that. Also, we have for our mature students, this is anyone 21 and older, that's where that can start to be really taken into account when you're looking into other kind of aspects of where they're at in their life and things like that. In terms of high school applicants, though, typically we're looking mainly at those high school admission requirements.
Totally, that makes total sense. So we're kind of moving on to the next question. We're just like taking a couple steps back and wanting to know a little bit about you. So why did you choose Lethbridge? Or maybe you can tell us about your position at Lethbridge so that everyone has a better understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a student at the University of Lethbridge from 2012 to 2016, and I earned a Bachelor of Music. And to be honest, when I initially chose it, it was quite close to where I was from. It was a convenient choice for me, but it actually ended up being a really, really fantastic experience and quite a life-changing one, honestly. I loved it so much. And the reason for that was because I got to have so much of a hands-on experience. So I got to really know my professors well. I had smaller class sizes, so I got to really know my peers. And I actually at one point had an opportunity to transfer somewhere else, and I chose not to because I was really, really enjoying my time there and I loved it so much. And so after I graduated, I was able to actually take on a position now. And what I do, I'm a recruitment officer now. So essentially we travel, we go to high schools, to events, talk to students, tell them about our university. But then in the time on campus, we're doing things like campus tours or working at events, things like that. We do enrollment advising, so helping students pick their classes, register for classes, things like that. So it's been a really fantastic and a fun job for me, and I've loved it. But it's a pretty easy job, honestly, because I have a lot to brag about. I don't find it really tough to talk about our university because I had such a fantastic experience myself. So I think for any student that's really looking for that more one-on-one approach where they can get to know their professors and talk to their professors or get to know their classmates, and if they're looking for things like research opportunities, or for me, I majored in music, so it was getting to do performance opportunities and playing in recitals and working with guest artists. There were a lot of those opportunities for me because it was a little bit smaller university. So it just felt like really the perfect fit for me personally.
No, that's so great. We're so lucky to have you. I mean, a student, like an alumni, you definitely understand the school, I'm sure, better than someone who hadn't gone there and just took up a career. So that's really great that we have to learn from your personal experience. So I guess that's kind of a little good transition to why choose Lethbridge over other universities or colleges.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, choosing a university, college, any post-secondary, it's always going to be a personal decision, right? There's always going to be a lot of factors in terms of what you're interested in, what you're looking to study, what kind of environment you want to be in. So that's always going to come from the student themselves. But I think in terms of our university, it really comes down to that hands-on aspect. Like I mentioned before, with having smaller class sizes, you really have the chance to explore different avenues that you might not get at a larger post-secondary. So whether, if you're wanting to work in the lab and do really specific research, if you're not necessarily waiting to a graduate program to do that, you can do that right in your undergraduate degree. So there's really a lot of opportunities, or even for things like getting involved in other ways on campus. It's quite readily accessible because of our size. So I think that's a really big draw for students that I find is getting to have that kind of interactive experience.
Oh, absolutely. So, who would you say that U of L is catered towards? Like, what kind of a student, like, what kind of school is it fit towards? Especially since you talk about having a smaller school, one would think that it's catered towards people who don't want as big of an environment, a smoother transition, but can it also work towards people who kind of want that adventure and they want to move to a school where it's almost a different experience from high school?
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't say that we necessarily cater to one group of students, but we are what's considered a liberal education university. So basically that means that students not only study within their major or area, but they're also taking classes outside of that. So you really get a well-rounded education. You become knowledgeable in different subject areas. So say when you graduate from your degree, if you're wanting to go have a conversation, you can really relate to your peers and your coworkers and your colleagues, and get to know them in that sense. So I really think that that can be beneficial to anyone, no matter what you're studying. And of course, like I said, it's a personal choice, what you feel is best for you in your university experience. That goes without saying. But there are so many reasons that our university is really, really fantastic to offer students that, right? Like to give them that chance to get to know not only their peers and their professors, but to get to know a lot of different subject areas and courses as well.
Right, so you wouldn't say that it's catered towards one kind of student, but instead Lethbridge caters to all kinds of students. It's
Yeah,
almost like an inverse, right? It's not like like a certain student is a perfect fit for Lethbridge. It's Lethbridge is a perfect fit for everyone.
yeah, yeah, I would agree with
Okay,
that for sure. I'd say definitely all types of students, all walks of students are absolutely welcome on our campus.
right, that's great. So to the viewers today, most of them are in high school, so they kind of want to know, what is that general first year of university going to look like? Is it well-rounded? How is it structured?
Yeah, so of course it depends on the program that you're going into, right? So different programs have different courses that requirements that you're going to be going through. But of course, anytime you're going to university for the first time, it's going to be a little bit of a shock to the system. It's a different environment to get used to, a whole different group of people. It's a big learning curve, right? But we have lots of support in place for first year students and lots of really great experiences to hopefully kind of ease that transition in. So in a typical year, our first year students would be living, if they're on campus, in our U-Haul residences that have fantastic events there for them. Our first year students, they do have a choice in courses they take and things they're looking for, but there's also like transition programs. So we have like our early start experience, where students can be in a cohort of other students and kind of have some support there in their peers to be able to start that experience off well and get used to that first year experience right off the bat. So there's some really great ways to get involved, but I mean, whether they're looking to play sports or to be in a club or things like this, there's lots of really great things for first year students to kind of get out of that comfort zone and meet new people. But I think inevitably it's always a really fantastic experience to see all the people that you'll meet and all the different classes you can take all within that first year.
For sure. No, that sounds really good. Definitely is a whole new chapter in someone's life. So it's nice to kind of have those comfort factors. But I guess kind of an uncomfortable topic is COVID-19 and how does that play a role in, admissions for next year? So do you think they're going to differ, or how has University of Lethbridge adapted their system of admissions to kind of work with COVID-19?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that post-secondaries across the country this year have faced. And we realized that obviously high school students aren't going to be coming to us with the same admission requirements that they would have typically had. And maybe a grade 12 student wasn't able to write a diploma exam or finish a Bio 30 course or what have you. So we've definitely adjusted those admission requirements for this year. So we're not admitting students on the typical basis of having to have these requirements. Essentially, for students that did have conditional offers or that did apply after all of this has happened, we have offered them admission without meeting those typical requirements. But because of that, we want to make sure that those students still have everything that they need to succeed. So we've put in different supports in place. So things like our online learning supports, and we reach out to those students directly to make sure that they know what supports are available on campus. So whether that's tutoring or a library resources or a writing center on campus, things like this, to make sure that even though a student may not have the admission requirement that would typically be in place, they still have everything they need to succeed in that program. So we really are going to be monitoring that throughout not only this year, but the next coming years, because we see that the effect's probably going to last a while now with everything that's going on. So I don't know what it might look like in years to follow after this year, but I know that for the fall 2020 semester, we definitely have taken that into account and are admitting students kind of on a different basis than what we usually would have been.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely great. I know a lot of people worry about that, and it's already having to worry about COVID-19 to start. So it's good that you guys are definitely catering to supporting students' education regarding, the issues with COVID. So that's really good. So up next, we've actually had a lot of interest in this. If you could walk us through, you have scholarships or financial aid, and what is considered when somebody applies for it, or what are ways that you can get it that maybe people don't know about?
Yeah, so I think kind of the typical first thing that comes to anyone's mind when they're thinking of scholarships is grades, right? And of course, we value those absolutely. And if a student can keep their grades up, that's a fantastic way to earn scholarships. But it's not by any means the only way to earn scholarships. So we have scholarships for things like community involvement, volunteering, extracurriculars. A number of different things are taken into account. So basically how our scholarship system works is we have one main application. So the Bridge is our student portal that they log into. That's where you can register for courses. That's where you can access your personal information. All sorts of things is housed there on the Bridge. But one of them is a scholarship application. So it's asked students a number of questions. So it will basically go through things like I mentioned. It will ask you about your community involvement, ask you about a number of different things, and all of them will be taken into account. So basically, from that application, you can earn a number of scholarships. So it makes it really nice and seamless in that you don't have to apply for multiple applications over and over. It's all in one portal and basically allows you to gain anything that you're eligible for from there.
Wow, that's great. And can you get a full scholarship, or do you only offer partial scholarships?
Yeah, so we don't offer a full tuition scholarship. This typically isn't something that we would consider on the academic standpoint, but certainly scholarships can combine in that way. So for example, you could receive multiple scholarships that might cover the cost of tuition, but we don't offer like single scholarships that would be considered full tuition scholarships.
Oh, yeah, that totally makes sense, for sure. So I guess the next question is like pre-professional transfer with U of A to U of C for programs like medicine and law. Can you expand on that and kind of tell us what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. So our pre-professional programs are essentially preparing students for the application process into programs like medicine and law. So essentially students are still earning that full bachelor's degree or partial bachelor's degree depending, but we're really preparing students for the material that those programs are going to focus on. So for example, if you're looking to go into the law program, for example, or apply into law schools, it's not saying or limiting that you have to apply into that law school at the end. Students could apply into numerous law schools, but we have those transfer agreements in place basically to say that we do guarantee that you are going to be prepared or meet the admission requirements, but granted, they are still competitive programs. So we don't guarantee admission into the program. We just essentially give students the courses and programming that they would need. So for example, for the pre-professional law, students might be looking into areas of reading comprehension or writing, or basically giving them the skills required. And similarly with the pre-professional medicine program, students might be looking into areas of science that might be applicable in medicine. So basically working with the student to make sure that they're really well versed and prepared for not only for the program but for the application process, so that they have everything they need. And in some rare cases too, students can apply even within their second or third year and be admitted prior to the completion of a full degree as well. Although more commonly, it's typically after completion of a degree, but there are definitely a number of options there for students.
Oh, that's great. And it seems like you guys are definitely making, the students' lives a lot easier with like providing those extra resources, which I'm sure is really good. Everyone wants, to have an easy way to navigate through university. We also know that another easy way to navigate is through extracurriculars and student life and clubs and stuff. So do you guys offer those kind of programs, or what kind of extracurriculars do you guys have to offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's tons of ways to get involved on campus outside of just your typical coursework. You mentioned clubs. We have over 75 clubs, and there's a wide range. So anything from rock climbing to our dance club to our most popular club on campus, which is our Mario Kart club. So there's a wide variety, tons of fun, lots of really great ways to meet people. But there's lots of other ways as well. We have our university student union, which is a really great way if you're looking for ways to maybe have a leadership position on campus, really get a say in what's going on. And the students union also offers some really fantastic events. So things like trivia night or bingo or things like this to really get students to be able to engage and interact with each other. And there's also things like our intramurals teams if you're wanting ways to stay active on campus. Our most popular sport is dodgeball, so it's a really fun way to kind of let out some steam and go enjoy that time between your classes as well. So lots of really fantastic ways depending what your interests are and what you're looking to do, but to stay involved and really have some fun while you're on campus too.
Oh, totally. That's great. So we have a lot of fun opportunities kind of to take a little break from school. But what about to cater towards the students that kind of like those internship, work experiences, and co-op programs? Do you offer those for those kinds of students as well?
Absolutely. Yes, we have some really, really fantastic co-op opportunities. So for all of our arts and science and our Dillon School of Business programs, co-ops are available, and they can come anywhere between a single term to doing a full year of co-op if a student was looking to. Also, we offer co-ops not only within local areas, but also international co-ops. So for example, I had a friend go to Malaysia and do a summer term there and work in an accounting office. So there's really fantastic opportunities to get involved even on a global scale through co-op. And also these positions are very competitive in terms of wages. So students maybe don't even realize that these are available to them when they start their degrees. So it's a great way to gain that work experience before you even graduate and go out into the workforce.
No, absolutely. That's really good that you guys have that. And especially with kind of a smaller school community, I'm sure it makes it easier to get those resources, to have people to reach out with, have those connections. So that's really good. So we're going to ask one more question before we go into the questions that are sent in by people. And so people really value the community when they go to university and college. They value the traditions that the school holds. And so that's kind of really important. So we just kind of want to know, do you guys have any fun student traditions or like fun sides of your community? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been a number of things over the years that kind of pick up. So Lethbridge is known a little bit as a windy city. So that kind of comes with its own reputation and jokes here or there that happen. But there have been some kind of funny anecdotes over the years. And so our main building on campus is called our U Hall, or University Hall building. And it was the first major building constructed on campus. And this was in the 1970s. And students actually took a Volkswagen Beetle and they pulled it up onto the roof of the building piece by piece and constructed it on top of the building. And we don't recommend it for students that they do this, but it's been kind of a legendary moment ever since that the Beetle made its way up onto the roof of U-Haul. So that's kind of one funny one. But in terms of the city and the university itself, it's just a really great place for students to get to know each other, to be involved, and to hang out all together. It's a really pretty awesome place.
No, that's awesome. Wow. That sounds like very tedious work, kind of taking apart an entire car and putting it all. Does that still happen now? Or is that
No,
just kind of, in history, tradition sort of a thing?
yeah, it only happened the one time. I think they kind of put a nix to that after it happened once. But it's a pretty cool story nonetheless now.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's so funny. My
Yeah.
goodness. Let's get into some questions that were sent in previously on our Instagram or kind of through us through email. So we'll get into that. We got quite a lot, so a lot of them were repeated. So I think a lot of people want to know these. So you already talked about research opportunities for undergrads, but people want to know if you guys have high school opportunities for research at the Calgary campus or the Lethbridge campus. Do you have those research opportunities for high school students?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some really fantastic opportunities for high school students. So just for a couple examples of these, if you're looking maybe for research within the sciences, we have what's called our iGEM team. So iGEM stands for International Genetically Engineered Machine. And essentially it's a competition that takes place every year, and our university has ranked very successfully multiple times in this competition. And this year, what students were looking to do, of course, prior to everything with COVID-19, but they were looking to produce an ingestible form of insulin. So basically they saw the costs and the difficulties in administering insulin how it is right now, and they wanted to make it more affordable and more accessible for people. So this was a really fantastic way for them to kind of look into this research. So like I said, there's a university level iGEM team, and there's also a high school iGEM team. So high school students can come to campus and take part in this research. But there's also in numerous faculties. We have in our Dillon School of Business, we do competitions every year in trading and finance, so students can get involved there as well. There's also multiple things like experience business days, so things where high school students can come onto campus and kind of have that experience there as well. But absolutely, we also offer dual credit courses as well. So for high school students within Lethbridge, if they're looking to take a course in high school that will also earn them university credit, we offer that as well. So lots of ways for high school students to get involved before even coming to university.
That's great. So I think this is like good segueing to the second question. Similar to that, a little add-on question is, how do you find these kind of research opportunities on your website? Who can you reach out to? And then furthermore, do you guys have ways to stay connected at Lethbridge? Do you have like a newsletter or updates on applications to stay connected?
Yeah, absolutely. So our information can all be found on our website, as you mentioned. A really great one for future students is our future student website. So this is uleth.ca/future-student. So it has a lot of really great resources, whether you're looking to apply, looking for ways to get involved, looking for registration help, lots of great resources there. But absolutely, we have a newsletter and we have an email list that students can sign up to. We also have an online inquiry form, essentially. So if you did have a program in mind that you were thinking, I would like some more information on, maybe I'd like something sent to me in the mail, we can absolutely do that. So you can just fill one of those out. Let us know what you'd like, what information you're looking for. Let us know if you'd like to receive emails from us, and we can absolutely send them your way.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. It seems super simple, easy to follow. Hopefully no one runs into any issues with that. So the next question, this was actually sent in quite a lot about the dorm situation. So if you can kind of tell us, is there like a certain system, like how many years you can be in a dorm, or can you have your dorm to yourself, or do you have to share?
Yeah, so typically our dorms, how they work, obviously this year is a bit different with COVID-19. So our dorms aren't as full as they would typically be, just because we want to ensure safe social distancing and that health regulations are followed and things like that. But in a typical year, our U-Haul dorms, so the building that I was mentioning earlier, that's typically home to kind of our first year dorms. So that's more of the traditional dorm style. So you can have your own dorm or you can have a shared dorm, whatever you prefer. On your residence application, you let them know exactly what your lifestyle is like, what you prefer, if you want to roommate, things like that. And then if you're choosing to stay in residence beyond your first year, then we have some different styles of dorms available as well. So we have townhomes, we have apartment styles, we have kind of our residence village where you can live in groups. So we have lots of different styles available that kind of accommodate different lifestyles, different ages, things like that, so that not everybody would have to live in that dorm style if they don't want to. And there's lots of different styles available. And like I said, really, really great way to get involved and to meet people, because always in residence we have activities going on. We have communal spaces where students can kind of hang out, meet each other, get to know each other. So there's lots available in that sense. But yeah, typically for our first year students, they're mainly going into our U-Haul residences.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. They kind of stay with the first years, build those connections, and then end up graduating to with them. That's nice. So, the next question is in regards to student services. So, do you have services for mental health, food services, like medical? How will that work, especially for people moving from whatever previous city they were living in, or like washing machines? And then, is it guaranteed, and for how many years?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a wide variety of student services available on campus. So I'll touch on the ones that you mentioned there. So counseling and career services, absolutely, it's available to all students. Right now, in the midst of COVID-19, they're doing virtual sessions, so virtual counseling sessions, so students can do that right from home, which is fantastic, but that's always available to students. We also, as you mentioned, the health center. So they are, again, always available to students. That's included on your health plan that's within your tuition costs. So you can go access that anytime. Often it's actually more convenient than going to things like a walk-in clinic, because you have fewer lines. It's only for students, so you know that you're not going to run into huge wait times and things like that. So it's a really fantastic resource for students needing anything like a minor prescription filled, things like that on campus. And then the other amenities you were mentioning, like washing and things like that in residence. You were referencing? Yeah, so yes, those are available to all students in residence as well all the time. So yeah, absolutely. And aside from all of those as well, there are a number of other services available. Even if you just go to our student services webpage, you can see there is a long list there. So whether you're needing learning accommodations, whether you're wanting academic support, tutoring, use of the writing center, there's a ton of services available on campus, and they're all put in place to help students. So we really encourage students to check them out, find out what's available, and really utilize them, because we want to make sure that our students have the best help that they can.
That's really great. Yeah, and everyone can find all those other resources on the website. I'm sure there's a lot of information regarding that too. So that's
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
So the next question is in regards to athletic teams. I know you touched on intramurals, but do you guys have athletic teams that people from high school can transition to play university or college teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 5 varsity athletic teams right now. So we have swimming, track and field, women's rugby, basketball, and soccer. So if you're looking to play at that varsity level, it's a fantastic way to get involved on campus. There's some great scholarships associated with those athletic teams. We also have competitive clubs. So our team is the Pronghorns. So those are our varsity athletes wear the Pronghorns logo. But our competitive club athletes actually also wear the Pronghorns logo. They're not considered a varsity team, but they're still representing the University of Lethbridge for athletics. And yeah, as I mentioned, there's also intramurals. So if you're looking to play in kind of that less competitive, more kind of fun atmosphere, that's a great way as well. But for anyone interested in those varsity teams, it's a really, really fantastic way to get involved on campus.
For sure, that's great. And so for the varsity teams, do you offer scholarships?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. For all varsity athletes, that's an option. Absolutely. Basically, it's all just worked out with directly with the coaches and with the team specifically, but absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So we have one more question that was sent in. It's a little bit of a funny, funky one, I guess, but they kind of want to know if you guys have any fraternity or sorority houses or anything that's equivalent to that.
Oh, interesting. So we do have quite like a quite small fraternity and sorority. To be honest, I don't know a ton about them. It's because it's less popular that I've known of in my time here. I know I've been to other universities where that's very common, or you see them kind of on a larger scale. Whereas at our institution, it's never really been, and I don't know if it's just throughout Alberta or Western Canada, it's never been quite as common. But I do know that we have one smaller fraternity and sorority on campus as well, if that's something that students are interested in.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun. So it's nice you guys have a little one. So that's nice. But yeah, so those are the questions that are sent in. But we do want to give you the opportunity to send in any last advice or anything you want us to know about University of Lethbridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I know that this is definitely a challenging time to be starting post-secondary, especially for those of you in the room who are graduating this year or looking into post-secondary in the near future. It's definitely maybe not the ideal time or the ideal picture that you had in your mind of starting university. But I think my motto is always that any education is good education, and it will be worthwhile, and there's always so much to get out of it, whether you're learning from home or on campus. And we would love to see you if you do choose to come. But as I mentioned before, I'm more than happy to take questions privately. If you have questions following the webinar today, I'm more than happy if you reach out personally. I don't know if it's best if I leave my email or contact information with you, Olivia or Rihanna. I'm more than happy to do that, and you can reach out to me directly with any more questions.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll definitely link your contact information so that people can just reach out to you. We actually just have one more question
Yeah.
sent in. So people want to, or someone wants to know if it's more competitive for admission for pre-professional programs than regular undergrad admission.
Typically not. So they're not considered competitive in nature generally. Of course, this always varies year by year depending on the program that they're looking into. But no, it's typically not more competitive because students are still earning that degree just as they would be. So, for example, if a student was going into the pre-professional program and was choosing to major in biochemistry, there wouldn't necessarily be a more competitive aspect to that than applying into the biochemistry program. It would just simply be assessed as a pre-professional program. So competitive averages don't need to tend to be really worried about too much in consideration in those. Yeah, great question.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
So I guess we're just gonna wrap it up now. Thank you again. It was so great. I'm sure we all learned so much. I definitely learned a lot, so that's good because I also did research before, and just talking to you, you definitely are so knowledgeable. So it was so great to have you here. Yeah, the Career Effect is super lucky to have you, and I'm sure everyone who will be viewing after the recording will definitely learn a lot as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been fantastic to be here today.
No, yeah, of course. Thank you so much. We'll make sure to link all your information so people can always reach out to you. And I'm sure you'll see some students in the upcoming years come to Lethbridge. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to seeing you then.
Mhm. All right. Bye.
Great. Well, take care. Thanks.